Hi everyone, and welcome back to this channel and to this INDESIGN class. So in the last lesson we talked about the workspace and interface, and then we saw some basic tools. And so let's recap them. First of all, so up here on the right we find the different workspaces we can work in. So for example, now we are currently in Essential, but as we also saw, we can create a new one. For example, we created the workspace one, or you can choose another workspace depending on which project you're working on. And I showed you how to customize your workspace. For example, we can move these panels around the workspace in a single column or in a double column, as you prefer. You can put it right here, and then we can also customize these panels here. For example, now we have 3 panels open that we can take and put here in the workspace. We can also, as you can see here, as you can read, collapse the icons, or we can close them. And then back here on window, we can also find some other panels to open. So for example, if you close the panel pages by mistake, you can also find it here again. And of course we can reduce it like this. So it's smaller and it's easier to control. But at the end of the day, if we don't like the new workspace, we can also go back here on Essentials and go to Reset Essentials. And here we are back where we started. Let's now look at the tools we saw in the last video. So for example, the zoom tool, we can find it here. And as we can see now, the hand tools has a plus on it. So if we click on the document, we zoom in. And if we press Alt, now we have like a minus inside. So if we click now with the mouse, we're gonna zoom out. And again, we can simply zoom in with Command Control plus plus from the keyboard, or Command Control plus minus. Zoom in, zoom out. And then another way to zoom in or out, which is my favorite by the way, because it's really easy. You have it with Command Alt from the keyboard and the scroll wheel from the mouse. So really easy. And last but not least, with the hand tool. So we go here on the left, we select the hand tool, and then by a left click for some seconds, we will see this red area, which is our zoom area. And with the scroll wheel, we can reduce or increase the area. So depending on whichever objects we want to zoom at. And then we release, and here we are, zoom in. As we see, we have many different ways to zoom in or zoom out, so you just have to choose your favorite, and they're all really easy. Okay, so now we're ready to start with the new lesson of today. So let's go up here on the left, on the home button. In this video, we are gonna create a new document from scratch with whatever specifications or settings do we want. We can go here on this blue button and click on new file. As we see, this panel is gonna open up, and we see on the right hand side here all the parameters and the settings we can do. And up here we see some tabs that show us, for example, some recent documents we've worked on, the one we saved, and then we can see some presets and some templates, for example, even though now we don't see the pictures, that regard documents we want to print. On the right, instead, we have the presets for the web and also the templates for that, and some presets for the mobile. Now we see here the iPhone, but down here, view all presets, we also see some presets for iPad or Microsoft or Android. So we really have many choices. Okay, today we are gonna see how to create a document for printing. And before starting, I suggest you to check this box here, preview, which is really important because it allows us to see whatever changes we are doing while making them. We can also put this button here because we don't need the left part, but just the right one. And let's start. So first of all, we can also save a preset if you want to use it in the future. So first of all, we have to name it preset number 1. Then we have to do our settings, and then here, through this button, we can save document preset. So here, as we see, we can choose the width and the height of our document and also the units. So pixels, millimeters, pixels, for example, if you want to make documents for the web or mobile. But right now, let's leave it millimeters and let's work with them. Here we can choose the orientation, so we can switch from portrait to landscape. Then we can choose how many pages we want. And of course, we can also add them up later while working. So for example, let's create 3 pages. And here, there's the options for facing pages or not. So for example, you will want to have facing pages if you're working on book or magazines. But right now, let's uncheck this box. As we see here on the right side, we will have 3 pages in a row, independent from each other. We want to start with page number 1. Then we can choose how many columns do we have. So as we saw, this big rectangle here, defined by this line, define our columns. So now we have just 1. If you increase the numbers, we're going to have more, of course. And next to it on the right, we have the column gutter. So if we increase these parameters, we will have more space between the columns. And this is really up to you, whatever you want to create or whatever you're working on. Also depending on how many data and content you want to put in and how you want to have them structured in your document. So for example, now we'll just go with 1 column. Then we have here the margins. The margins, as we see while changing the parameters, define our space between the columns and the end of the document. So the trimline that we talked about in the last video. And then you see this bottom here. So this one makes all the settings the same. So for example, if I increase the parameter on top here, you see that also the other 3 parameters are going to change. But if I check this bottom or uncheck it, because I just want to change 1, now, as you see, it's changing just the top. Usually you will want to work with them all connected, so I will just leave it like that. And I will set my margins at 10 millimeters. Now, for the bleed and slug, we've talked about the bleed in the last video. It's really important at the printing moment. So you will always want to have some millimeters of bleed. Let's leave 3. And then we have this slug down here. So the slug is like an area of our document where we can write all of the information about the document. So for example, the colors and the fonts we've used, or some instructions, or for example, the name of the document. It's an area that is not going to be printed, but could be really useful for the printer or for some other person you're gonna send the document to. This way, you can read all the instruction and information about the documents. Okay, so once we've decided and we've set all these parameters, let's get back up here and save this preset document. Let's name it again. So preset number 1, and then blue button, save preset. So as we can see here, under the saved document, we have our preset 1 that we just created. And now let's go on this other blue button, create. And here we are, our document that has 3 pages in a row. That we can also see here from the panel pages on the right. Alright, so for example, if you're not happy with the result, we can always make new changes and set new parameters. Up here from File, Document Setup. So as you can see here, we have almost all the settings we had before, starting with the choice between the print documents or web ones or mobile ones. So for example, now I want to change the number of pages and I want to create a document that has 5 facing pages. So we'll check some the box, and once again we can check this box preview and we immediately see the changes here. So now we see 5 facing pages. Let's leave the page size, also the orientation, let's leave portrait. Then for example, I can show you how the slug area looks. So as you can see here, this linking tool is unchecked. That's because usually you don't want to create an area around all the documents. So on top, bottom, inside, outside. So let's set area of 10 millimeters on the outside. And it's here on the right side of the documents, defined by this blue line. It looks kind of small, so we can also set 50 millimeters. Okay, so let's click OK. Here we are in our new document. So we have the slack area in every page of the documents, of course, and on the outside side, as we set. Let's go back on page number 1. Alright, we could also check the pages panel right here, so we can always take a look at the pages in our document. Let's reduce it a bit. Okay. And let's put it right here, next to our document. Perfect. You could also reduce this area by clicking on this bottom right here. Perfect. So as you can see right here on the panel, we have the pages of our document down here, and then we have a parent page, which is our master page. So basically, master pages help us working with repeating elements. So for example, page numbers or design elements. And as you see, all these pages here, so the pages of our document, have a little A on it, which it means that they're linked to the A parent page, so the master page. So basically, if we double click on here, now we are not in our document, but we are in the master page. And everything we are going to do here, we are going to see reflected in our document. So in every pages that has an A on it. For example, let's take the type tool. Let's create a box text here. Let's write hello. Okay, maybe it's too little. Let's go to Window, Control. And here it is, the control panel, the control bar, which is really useful and helpful. So I suggest you always leave it here. So let's increase the volume of the letters. So now that I wrote this in the master page, if we go back on our document, we find it also here in the document. So it can be really useful and can save us a lot of time. But let's not focus on that, because we are definitely gonna go back later in the next video and I will explain it further. Alright, so let's explain now how to save a file on INDESIGN. First of all, we have to go up here on File. As you can see now, we have two choices, Save and Save As. If we click on Save, it's just gonna save the INDESIGN file we are currently working on. And that's just gonna save since any changes are less made. And if we see up here on the tab of the document, this one, we see the name of the document without any asterisk in front. If, for example, we're gonna add a new page, so here on the Pages panel, with this button, Create New Page, we immediately see that a star is gonna show up. And that means that we are making some changes on the document that we didn't save. So again, if I go on File and click on Save, now we just see the name without any star in front of it. So watch out here, because this could be really helpful. Alright, and now let's talk about this Save As option. So let's click on it. Alright, so we can now choose a folder where to save our document in. Then we can name it, and last we're gonna save it. And if we click down here, we see that we have three options. So the first one is like the default mode, and you're almost always gonna save it this way. The second one, so if you save the document as an INDESIGN template, it means that probably you already set your document. So you've already worked a lot on it and the project is almost ready. But technically, these two options here are the same. If you save it as a document or as a template, it doesn't make a difference. So at the end of the day, the file that you're gonna save as a document or a template, it's the same. And then we have this last option, which is for people who need a IDML file. So for those who has an INDESIGN CS4 or later version, which is a kind of old version of INDESIGN. And last we have this box here that says always save preview images with documents, which basically means that the images you have on your document will be shown as preview even if someone doesn't have the JPEG file on his computer. So it's something that can be helpful. And then we go to save. Alright, so for this lesson it's all. In the next one we're gonna see some tools that help us to lay out the document. So for example rulers or guides or grids. So stay tuned and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye everybody!